from Functional Flex. We're in the Strength Cave, and today I want to talk about squat mistakes. Squats are a great exercise. They should be a part of your training program, and most everybody is doing them in one form or another. But there are a huge number of mistakes that are coming up, and I want to show you guys the top 5 most common ones that you need to correct right now today to get better squat gains going. Number 1, poor unrack. This has to be the most common thing I see. Everybody's always thinking about their form when they're doing the squat, but nobody's thinking about the form when they take the bar off the rack. And that is the most critical time when you're actually doing the squat anyway, because the way you take the bar off is gonna dictate the movement you can set up, the spinal position you're gonna get, the way your hips are gonna work, all of it. It starts with a strong unrack. So don't be unracking lazy and just kind of moping around and moving the bar and jiggling and then try to get set up after. Set up first underneath the bar before you even put the weight on your back. Get strong, get stiff, and then unrack slowly and step it back. Common mistake number 2, we're talking about when the heels are lifting, and I'm not talking about a purposeful heel lift, like if you're putting a board under your feet or you're wearing squat shoes. I'm talking about when you squat down and then your heels start to come off the floor because you're moving forward onto your toes. As soon as that happens, put the bar back, rack it up, start over. Because when you do that, you lose position, you're putting strain on your back, you're putting strain on your knees, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, and you're not well grounded. You need to get firm grounded into the floor and keep all 4 corners of your foot on the floor. And when I say 4 corners, I'm talking about big toe, little toe, heel inside, heel outside. You gotta keep all those flat and grounded into the floor when you do your squats. Common mistake number 3, valgus knees. And valgus means when your knees travel inward. So you see this all the time, especially when people start getting heavy with weight, right? They're gonna squat down, and as they get down, their knees are gonna travel inward, and then they're gonna stand up and they're gonna pop back out. Now, if that's happening to you, you have way too much relaxation going on in that hip capsule. You have absolutely 0 torque, and you're losing a lot of force because you're really just using your joints and your ligaments to lift the weight, not as much your muscles. You need to keep your knees driven out. You need to keep constant tension on there. Imagine like you're screwing your feet into the floor so that you create this stable environment at your hips. You're gonna feel a lot more action going on in the glute, in the hamstring, and in the quadriceps. Common mistake number 4, doing good mornings instead of squats. And what I mean by that is everybody hears the cue. You gotta sit back, you gotta put your hips back, you gotta put your weight in your heels. And then all of a sudden people are way like this, lean down doing their squats, and they're actually doing more of a good morning style thing where they're gonna bend over and then they're gonna come back up, and they're actually hardly loading their legs, they're loading their back and posterior chain a lot more. And it's not a squat at all when you're doing that. That's gonna wear out your back over time. It's gonna be extremely exhausting for all the intrinsic muscle stabilizers in the back. And if you're doing deadlifts and things like that, you're basically already training the shit out of those muscles. So doing your squats like good mornings is going to produce back problems, back pain, and you're not gonna get any of the gains you want. Usually if you're doing this good morning type lift, it's simply because your position sucks at your hips. So you gotta get a better stance. You gotta get into more of a wide stance maybe, try a more narrow stance, figure out where it's comfortable for you. And then you really gotta focus on staying tall, keeping your chest up. You might need to change your bar position on your back. If you're a high bar squatter, you got it up on the traps, and maybe try a low bar. If you've been doing low bar and it's pulling you forward, maybe try a high bar. Find a position where you can stay more vertical, because doing a good morning is not a good thing. Common mistake number 5, incorrect range of motion, okay? There's 2 levels here. You're either going way too deep and you're turning off your muscles, or you're going way too shallow and you're not even activating them. This happens to various amounts of people, right? There's a lot of people that hear you have to squat HEG. It's the only way to squat. Your ass has to touch the floor every single rep you do. And these people are going down way too far, turning off muscle activation at a certain point, and then really just loading joints and ligaments and tissues like that, your spine, all those things are getting loaded instead of the actual muscles in the squat. Then you're gonna snap back into the form, and you're gonna hurt your back doing that. You're gonna hurt your knees, you're gonna hurt your hips, and you're not, again, training the muscles the way you need to be. So if you're doing ATG squats with minimal activation of muscles, guess what? It's not a great way to train. Now the other option is gonna be somebody who's squatting way too shallow. They're not even getting to depth. And those are the people generally lifting way, way too heavy, okay? When you load up the bar, you think you just bend your knees a little bit and then you stand up and you're good to go. It's not the case. You gotta do a full squat. You gotta hit full range of motion, which is gonna be parallel for most people at least, okay? A little bit beyond maybe. But this stuff comes down to your individual hip structure. for both the person who's trying to squat HCG and both the person who's not going deep enough. You have to customize your squat depth for you. The correct range of motion is going to depend on a lot of things, but it's really going to come down to your hip capsule depth. So there is no magical range of motion. There is no you should only squat to half, you should only squat to parallel, you should go a little bit beyond, you should go ATG. Depending on who you are and how you're built and the structure of your bones that you don't even know, that is going to dictate how far you can safely squat deep and what range of motion you should actually use. You can figure out the correct range of motion for you depending on when your back breaks. And what I mean by that is when you're doing a squat, you should see from the side that you have a nice flat back. So if you take your phone out, which you got in the gym, I know you do, take it out, take a video of you doing squats and test this. Watch your spinal position, your back staying flat. At what point does it curve? When it curves, you've gone too deep. And you want to go just to before it's going to curve with your depth, your range of motion, okay? Now you'll see some ATG squatters with really shallow hip capsules be able to go all the way to the bottom without any spinal curve. You're going to find people with deep hip capsules can go very little, maybe just to parallel without getting the curve. You've got to customize for you, so take a video, watch your back, and see which one works best for you. Now more than likely, you've got at least one of these problems going on. You might even have multiple. So here's what you got to do. You got to attack them one piece at a time. Pick one of these from the list. Pick whichever one you had that was the most problematic. Maybe one's causing you pain. Maybe you get back pain when you squat. It's gonna be one of these, okay? And identify that and start working towards it. Once you've mastered that one, attack another one. Eventually, if you take these 5 things out of the equation, you're gonna have a much better squat. You're gonna have much better strength, much better muscle, much better results overall just from making a few simple little tweaks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for being here. If you thought this was helpful, share it out, comment, tell me what you thought. Subscribe to my channel for many, many more videos just like this, and check out my custom online coaching at functionalflexfitness.net. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.